Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something that literally affects every single one of us, every single day. We're looking at how specific nutrients from your food actually manipulate your mood, your energy levels, and even your long-term brain health. Like, we all know eating well is generally a good idea, right? But the actual mechanics of how a handful of almonds or a giant plate of pasta rewires your brain chemistry, it's honestly mind-blowing.
Okay, so let's kick things off with a kind of weird thought experiment. Imagine you took your brain and just sucked all the moisture right out of it. Like you turned it into a piece of cognitive beef jerky, basically. If you broke it down to its raw nutritional content, what would that actually look like? What exactly is floating around up there?
Well, the answer is pretty fascinating. The vast majority of the weight in that dehydrated brain would actually be fats, or, lipids if we're being scientific about it. After fats, the next biggest chunk is proteins and amino acids. And then, rounding out the whole mix, you'd find traces of micronutrients and glucose. Now, obviously your mind is way more than just the sum of its nutritional parts, but every single one of these physical components has a massive, measurable impact on how your brain functions.
Have you ever been sitting at your desk and suddenly felt that massive wave of post-lunch apathy hit you? Or maybe you've experienced this weird, wired alertness late at night when you're trying to sleep? Well, the answer to why that happens isn't some huge mystery. It's literally hidden right there in the ingredients you just ate.
So, here's the crucial takeaway. What you're feeling in those moments, it's not a random mood swing. It is a direct biological reaction to the specific fuel you just gave your brain. You're actually feeling the physical mechanics of digestion translating into cognitive shifts. It is a completely straight line from your fork directly to your feelings.
To really understand how this works, we're going to break down how these four main categories sustain your brain. We've got fats for building your brain, proteins for controlling your mood, micronutrients for protecting your mind, and carbs for fueling your brain power.
All right, let's start with category 1, fats or lipids. This is literally about building your brain. Now look at the stark contrast here. On one side, we have the absolute superstars of the fat world, omegas 3 and 6. These are essential fatty acids, meaning your body literally cannot make them on its own. They absolutely have to come from your diet. So when you eat things like nuts, seeds, or fatty fish, you are handing your body the exact raw materials it needs to create and maintain your brain's cell membranes. They're even linked to preventing degenerative brain conditions. But then, look at the alternative. While omegas build up your mind, long-term consumption of other fats, specifically trans and saturated fats, actively compromises your overall brain health. So the type of fat you eat is literally dictating the structural integrity of your mind. Crazy, right?
Moving right along to category 2, proteins and how they control your mood, we're going to look at how these actually act as messengers that completely manipulate how you feel.
So, getting into the brain is not an easy task, and it basically happens in 4 distinct steps. First, amino acids from your food actually have to fight each other. They literally compete for limited access just to get inside your brain cells. Once they manage to get in, step 2 happens. They deliver precursors. These precursors set off step 3, which is the release of neurotransmitters. Those chemical messengers that carry signals between your neurons. And finally, step 4. Those specific messengers totally alter your mood by triggering things like norepinephrine, dopamine, and serotonin. It is a complete chain reaction.
And this complex chemical reaction is playing out every single day, right there on your plate. The specific combinations of compounds in your food completely dictate which of those messengers get released. That's exactly why destroying a massive, heavy plate of pasta stimulates neurotransmitters that leave you feeling deeply calm, or even super lethargic. But on the flip side, eating a really protein-rich meal triggers entirely different chemical messengers that make you feel sharply alert and ready to go.
Now, because those amino acids are constantly battling for access to your brain cells, relying way too heavily on just one type of food is going to totally skew your neurochemistry. To stop your mood from swinging wildly in one direction or another, your brain desperately needs variety. A really diverse diet ensures a perfectly balanced combination of these critical brain messengers, which keeps your mood nice and stable and your focus sharp.
All right, on to category 3, micronutrients and how they protect your mind. Let's take a look at your brain's internal defense system.
Standing right on the front lines of this defense system are antioxidants. These are powerful micronutrients that you mostly get from fruits and vegetables, and they are absolutely essential because they actively strengthen your brain so it can fight off free radicals. Now, free radicals are basically unstable atoms that wander around trying to destroy your brain cells. It sounds scary, but by neutralizing them, antioxidants step in and ensure your mind works better for a much longer period of time.
But hey, antioxidants are definitely not the only defenders on the board here. Your brain also heavily relies on vitamins B6, B12, and folic acid, along with trace amounts of minerals like iron, copper, zinc, and sodium. If you don't have a steady, reliable supply of these specific vitamins and trace minerals, your brain's defenses drop. You become highly susceptible to brain diseases, major mental decline, and for younger people, even delayed cognitive development. These nutrients might be tiny, but man, they carry a massive defensive responsibility.
Finally, for your brain to actually use all of those amazing elements, it needs gas in the tank. Which brings us to Category 4, carbohydrates, fueling your brain power.
To really wrap your head around the energy demands of your brain, I want you to consider this tiny number, 2%. The human brain, for all of its incredible complexity, only makes up about 2% of your total body weight. It's a seriously compact organ.
But here is the shocker. Despite that tiny size, it demands up to 20% of your body's entire energy resources. I mean, that is just an enormous gap between physical size and energetic requirement. So where exactly is all this energy coming from? Well, most of that massive energetic demand is met by carbohydrates, which your body digests into glucose, basically your blood sugar. Your brain, and especially your frontal lobes, are incredibly sensitive to this fuel supply. In fact, if your glucose levels drop, one of the very first immediate signals of that nutrient deficiency is a sudden, super noticeable drop in your mental function and your attention span.
Now, assuming you are getting glucose regularly, we've got to look at the type of fuel you're putting in the tank. Carbohydrates generally come in 3 forms: starch, sugar, and fiber. And while nutrition labels love to just lump these all together into one single total carb count, the specific ratio of sugar and fiber subgroups actually completely dictates how your body and your brain are going to respond.
Just comparing these categories shows you exactly why this matters so much. High glycemic foods, like a slice of white bread, cause this rapid, massive release of glucose right into your blood. But then, almost immediately after that spike, comes the inevitable crash. Your blood sugar just tanks, completely destroying your attention span and your mood right along with it. On the other hand, if you go for low glycemic foods like oats, grains, or legumes, you get a much slower, way more controlled release of glucose. This steady stream of fuel gives you a sustained level of attentiveness without that absolutely devastating crash. As we wrap up this explainer, we've seen how absolutely everything, from the creation of your cell membranes to the chemical messengers that literally dictate your mood, relies entirely on your diet. Knowing that every single meal has a direct, biological, and super long-lasting effect on your cognitive function, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to chew on before your next meal. When it comes to what you bite, chew, and swallow, what will you choose to feed the most powerful organ in your body?